Welcome to Groundswell.
This is a space for conversations at the edge of change, where patterns of culture and consciousness shape the world we're actually living in.
I'm Chloe.
And I'm Sam.
You can find us at groundswellcommons.com to learn more about what we're building or join us in conversation on the podcast.
Let's get into the shift. It's 4 right now.
I love it. We're just on it today.
Truly.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Chloe.
I'm so excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
What are we talking about, Queen?
Well, the last deep dive episode we talked about, we sort of scratched the surface of kind of like the impact of like curriculum and schooling. And we talked a lot about the problems and like sort of how we got there, which I think is like an important thing to understand. I think that like history and like the systems and the way that we got someplace is super important and has its place. But I think what we're trying to do on our podcast is really like create space for like the possibility and like speak into existence like the transformation that like curriculum and schooling can be. And then like also the reminder that when I say curriculum, I mean like everything, because like as we've discussed, like kind of everything has a curriculum, right? Like every business, every corporate space, every school has like a set of rituals and routines and practices that we kind of like learn to be who we are. And so it's like, okay, last episode, we talked a little bit about why we got to the place that we are currently. And like a lot of us have obviously been through schooling. So we've like experienced like the conditioning of it. And that's like why I think this topic is like so important, is that like it's really touched all of us. Like this shapes how we're seeing the world, which like is so inherently spiritual, right?
Yeah. It's just like new forms, new ways, like new opportunities, like new world. Like we get to change it. Like just because it is that way now doesn't mean it stays that way forever. And I think it's also worth noting that like change is like has been conditioned as difficult. Change is not that hard. Like it actually is fucking not. Like
You can
think about,
change.
you can change. I mean, I just think about like in so many conversations that we have, we like timeline hop and overcome things and like redirect energies like sometimes in an instant. So change is not hard, and we have like a beautiful future that we're creating right now.
Yes, and like that kind of gets into the whole like how do we define learning differently? And like you said, like okay, change is something that we've kind of been conditioned and like has been like put into us that like it's difficult to change, it's hard to change. And actually if you change it's like almost a bad thing. Like I feel like at some point like we were kind of villainized for changing our mind. But like if we consider learning to be like alchemy and learning to be transformation in the way that it truly is, like inside of schools, outside of schools, then like we learn that change is actually the alchemy. And there's like a reason that we've been told that it's so hard and that we can't do it and that we're always going to be the same, right?
Yeah, and the other thing that is coming into my mind too is this idea of change being slow. Like it's actually
Mm.
neither hard nor slow. It's actually easy and it's fast. We just have to decide differently and do differently.
Yeah. And that, like, it's so interesting the more that I've learned about it from you, because, like, the way that we work collaboratively together, we're like, oh shit, we can actually shift the entire energy around this. And now that we're paying more attention to that, we can like kind of do things in that way, which I feel like is sort of the like defining that learning has been treated like it only happens in your mind, but like the reality is that it's happening in your body.
Yes. And
So
like,
like yeah, go on.
well, I'm just thinking like how embodied I am, just like as an individual, as a baseline because of my double Virgo. I mean, there's literally just like no way I couldn't be. But what has just like been so illuminating to me is that the world is not embodied.
Yes, yeah. You're like, oh wait, not everyone's like this. Like that was crazy.
Yeah, and so like for the while then I guess while like I was realizing how embodied I was, thinking that people were walking embodied, I didn't realize that the flaws of the system were based in the fact that we're not embodied.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
So
it's
like
like
the
you're having
disconnect
this
of that is like it's existential.
yes.
It's like I literally don't understand why we're doing things we
Yes.
don't want to be doing, we shouldn't be doing. Like then why are we doing those things?
Yes. And I think that like a lot more people are getting to that point, and like that's like where I got to, but it's just like it is an intentional having to learn your body. And so when we think about where did we learn our foundational understandings of things, and like it was schools, and schools are like intentionally separating us from ourselves, from our bodies, right? So like the process of like using our bodies for learning and transformation, I think means that we have to be attuned to like not only what we see, but how we feel, how we like relate to something, how we like act on it, and then also how we imagine what is possible, which kind of gets to the point of like what we were kind of started with was this whole idea of like we've almost been conditioned to like define the problem so hard. Like spend all this time like, and that's like what started to getting annoying in my own schooling as well. It's like we would spend these whole classes just defining the problem again and again,
Mm.
and like that is almost like the inherent like trajectory of it, like because it's like simultaneously I was learning about how disempowering schooling is while like experiencing schooling that was like disempowering literally in my body.
Yeah, literally. And like I think what is also like coming up for me right now is this like
Mm.
shift where we're recognizing the subtle bodies of things. So the subtles being kind of like again like the unseen, the mystery, the beyond what is visible. And so like really being encouraged to like feel beyond what you're seeing.
Mm, yes. Yes. And then also too, like I can just see how for so many people that could be something that is, well, I guess like disempowering, but also kind of confusing to try to have to figure out how to tap into. Cause you're like, well,
Totally.
I don't necessarily want to be like, I'm not feeling this spiritual stuff, or I'm going to these spiritual spaces and it's like too much, or that's not something I can like be a part of. And but you're still like having these experiences. So it's like, how do you interact with the world when we've been like taught that like everything is done through thinking?
Mm.
Thinking,
Yes.
not only thinking, but like struggling.
Hmm.
So when we think about like redefining what learning is, like learning doesn't have to be a struggle. Learning doesn't have to be not fun. Like learning can be fun. Like learning can change your life.
I keep
Learning can shift
thinking
your perspective. Yeah, go on.
yes, no, 1,000%. Like there's joy in learning. It's a gift to learn. There's infinite knowledge. So like we could be learning something every single day. And it's like whatever you want to be learning, you can be. And so what was coming up to me was what we were talking about earlier is just like this idea of like how you would like go to class and you'd be in school for like fucking 8 hours a day and you'd get like a 20-minute lunch. And then every single class, I'm speaking about like, middle school through high school, really, every single teacher and every single class would like give you homework. So you were just like doing this shit for the sake of doing it. But like, how can we reimagine tactile learning, embodied learning, tactile learning?
Well, I think, and like this kind of came up for us actually earlier today, was this whole concept, like when you were talking about like the fact that you have to go home and do homework,
Yeah.
like when you like, which is essentially busy work because there was no time to integrate or process these things. So
Yes,
it's like,
exactly.
it makes so much sense in that way, but it's like learning can look like not doing anything. Learning can look like,
Yeah.
having a conversation. Like it's not all about producing stuff. It's about like really having time to like think and question, which is like, something that comes up for us a lot in conversation. And like I learned sort of this idea of critical consciousness from the theorist Paulo Freire. And so he talks about what critical consciousness is and like, the spiritual warfare of not teaching critical consciousness in schools, like the oppressiveness of that is like, yeah, it's like developing the ability to like transform and participate in your own reality in your own world. And so I think like it can look like doing a project. And like I think that like it should be a lot of creativity. Like when I taught, I loved doing like projects and like I we've done like a blog, like we made tumblers, and then I had to at one point I had to switch to WordPress because I think Tumblr got a bit explicit. Like I don't know if it started that way, but we made tumblers when I taught grade 10. And oh my God, they were so fun. And then I would just assign them like different types of posts to make. So like we were reading a book and then they would like post all their responses on Tumblr. And then I would sometimes have them like post a picture that like, and then explain like how it referenced what it was. So I think just like more creative ways of interacting with information and more like group work and like steering away from the like everyone should have a different product at the end,
Yeah,
right?
well, and
Like,
like what's coming up for me regarding like just the blog post is like you're giving everybody an opportunity to write from a heart space, like, and think from the body. And something that has been coming up for me a lot in my work is like memoir work, is this idea of like writing down your life, writing down your memories and your histories, and
mm,
like kind of recounting those things and recognizing like how these lessons, how these learnings have shaped you. Because like again, like it's one thing to just information input, it's another thing to integrate it and then use that for good in the world and for yourself. Like
yes.
what's it all for?
uh, what is it for? We should be
What is it
focusing
all
on, yeah,
for?
and like, isn't everything just supposed to be smoother? And I think that we could ask that question in like a multitude of spaces, but yeah, totally. Like in a classroom space, like we're just learning to problem solve. Like we're preparing them for life, no? Like, and it's like at some point it turned into, oh, we're just preparing them for college. And it's like, look at where that's gotten us. Like kids
Yeah.
cannot read, but like it's because they weaponized reading. Like I remember when I taught 6th grade, okay. So I only worked at a public school teaching 6th grade for 2 years. But the second year that I taught there, I was like, I'm not doing anything that they tell me to do. And they can fire me if they want to. Like, I wanted to be fired. I was so irritated with like everything I had learned and like what they were doing. And I mean, they wanted me to administer standardized tests when most of my class was online. I was like, you want these kids that are at home to sit and do a standardized test? Like
Yeah.
this is crazy. And so like I was told that I shouldn't do like a writing assignment the year before. Like I wanted to do personal narratives because they were like practicing narrative writing. And I was like,
Yeah.
the best way to start with like practicing writing is to write about something that you have experienced, because then you can tap into that experience and you can think, what did I feel in that situation? Like what did I see in that situation? Because like I taught English, so I taught writing. And so
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, like let's go in, which I now realize I'm like how grounding that is to describe the five senses of something. Like, what a nice experience. But the sixth grade standardized test didn't have them write their own narrative, it had them finish a story. So instead of them writing their own story for the test, they had to finish a story that had already been written.
Yeah. And like,
That's
for
so
what? Why?
boring.
And
That's
why?
boring.
You
Finish
know what
someone
I mean?
else's
Like,
story?
yeah, what's the point of that? Like, there's no, it just like doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and I like kind of look back on my experience and I think um how grateful I am that I feel like I always kind of had an acumen for writing and words and storytelling. And so my like higher education experience, I was a history major, so all of my output was writing. I was like writing papers constantly. There I wasn't taking
Mm.
standardized tests really, or just like tests in general. Whereas, like, I went to a school where there was a lot of like what I guess you would call professional programs, like med programs, dental programs, like science programs, basically. And so almost all of my peers were in this particular curriculum, and no one else that I knew, like I wasn't close to anybody in my program. And so I was kind of like the only one in my circle that was thinking through writing and not like just thinking through like a lens of multiple choice.
Mm. Because even writing for the testing is taught like a formula.
Right.
Like they were like trying to help me teach writing better my first year, and they had me go observe someone who taught it like a fucking formula. And I'm like, that is not writing to me. Like
Yeah.
writing should be like creative. And so then like the next year that I taught, I had students, and again, we were like, I think that at maybe like halfway through the year, they started letting kids come back to school, but I taught from home. And then like probably 70% of my students were online. But I like one of our assignments and something that we worked on was a personal narrative. And oh my God, the personal narratives that I got in, like literally, I still think about to this day. I'm like,
Oh.
oh, they're so good and so sweet. It's
Oh.
like, I'm like, oh my God. Well, and then it was funny because like when I left, they were talking about looping us. And so like I taught sixth grade, and so they were like, oh, maybe the next year you would teach seventh grade. And then stay with the students that you taught this year. And so I was like, okay, if they do that, then I like have to stay. Like I can't leave them.
Right,
I would want to teach them
for the
again.
children. Yeah,
Yeah,
for the
for
children.
the children. And so I was like, okay, I won't quit if they loop us and I get to teach grade 7 with them. But then when they didn't, I was like, it's a sign. I have to leave. I'm
Yeah.
unwell here. you
Yeah. Well,
know?
and I think something that like I'm always moved by in your in your lens is just this kind of like rebel spirit that you have always had, like the way that you have kind of recognized from the beginning just how like fucked up it all was. Whereas like I would, compared to like my experience, my recall on it is like I really did what I had to do to just get through it. Like I knew it was wrong, but I definitely like still just appeased the environment. And that's also kind of what we were talking about earlier, which was just this idea of like, how do we break out of the construct of like appeasing and being obedient to, and like just really reimagining what learning could be.
I feel like that kind of it goes into the embodiment. It's like if you're embodied, then you have a better sight and a way of knowing what's like right,
Mm,
you know? I think just like focusing again back to like trying to define or like imagine the possibility of these spaces, and it's like what does it mean to teach embodiment in any space, which again like I don't care, it could be your workplace, like it can
yeah.
be, like there's a lot of different spaces where people are learning. It could be one course, but it's like tapping into the body as like a site of knowing And so it's like acknowledging it like through the learning process. Like how much would things change if while we were learning we were asked to tap into what our body was feeling? Because it's so
Mm.
funny because so many things that are coming up that we talked about today, what embodiment is looking like when we're pulling it into reality, if we're like manifesting what that actually looks like. Um, it's yeah, being cognizant of the way that we are taking the time to check into our bodies, which is like something I've said about breath work before. I feel like breath work helped me become so much more aware of my breath. And like now, multiple times a day, I think, oh, like, have I breathed deep enough? So it's like we can learn everything. Like, it just takes a bit of practice. And if it was like integrated into our learning, everyone would be in a better place.
I think one of the most meaningful embodiment practices that I ever learned was yoga. I mean, something that even
Mm,
came up for me on Monday today that I commented to the teacher on is like, I was like, I love the micro cues. So, like, if you're in a position and they're like, lower your shoulder, lift your chin, or lower your chin, like, those are things that you can hear when your eyes are closed. And when you follow those cues and when you have a teacher who is like so skilled in yoga embodiment and you're listening to that and you're making those micro adjustments, like that is change and that is transformation.
well, and the importance of like a teacher or a facilitator in that space being embodied in a way that they can again like the whole embodiment as like the new form of leadership.
The
Like
thing that also just came to me is like they're almost always doing it with you, right? So when they're
mm,
thinking about their cues, they're saying them from a place of doing it in lifetime, remembering what they have to adjust in order to be in correct form.
yes. Understanding like all of the little intricacies of your body, and then I think really good facilitators obviously can like think even beyond themselves where they're like, I know I needed this adjustment, how might other people, with different
Yes.
bodies need these things, how else can you, right, like when they offer like modifications and stuff, I feel like that does take
Yes.
so much like understanding of something for sure.
In shavasana, for example, when you're like just laying there in corpse pose, basically, oftentimes they're running through different parts of your system that in an ordinary way you would never put focus on. Like in shavasana on Monday, she was like, take notice to your kneecaps. When the fuck ever am I like consciously thinking about my kneecaps? But that is a part of my vessel. That is a part to give notice to. And so, like, really realizing, just as you said, just how intricate our bodies are and how much it takes for it to be firing on all cylinders at all times. And like, we have a duty to like love our bodies in order to be able to communicate with her.
Yes, 1,000%. And then also just like remembering that the disembodiment is like part of the hidden curriculum. So it's like we're being
Mm.
taught out of our bodies. Like we're intentionally not being taught about it. So I think that that's like another important like factor. Like this is part of a thought out system. And then so in going like how can we directly counteract that, I would say that like nervous system education. So it's like not
Yeah.
only learning about like different parts of your bodies, like you said, these like small adjustments of things, but also being able to like pay attention to how your body is feeling and your nervous system is feeling. And I think that kind of like that feeds into that whole like the urgency of everything. Like then and I remember at my school they used to tell us that we needed to teach from bell to bell. So
God.
we needed to be
That's
teaching the
wild.
yeah, and it's
Why?
like yeah. And then because like us we go through school and experience that, we create it for ourselves outside of that. Right? Like I actually
Mm.
still have to consciously be like you don't have to rush about this. Like it's actually feels so much better in my body if I'm like relaxed and
Yeah, well,
doing what I'm
I
supposed to be
can't
doing.
remember. Yeah, exactly. And that was a mantra we kind of talked about today, which was this idea of telling ourselves, like, you do not have to rush. But I can't remember if we spoke about this like offline or in a recent episode, but something hit my inbox within the last week or two that really stuck with me. And it was an Ayurvedic practitioner who is basically working on some land in South America and like her homeland. And she was describing how she has a new routine, a new ritual of waking up at 5 a.m. and working until noon, and then having a break until it was either like 2 or 3 maybe, and then working into the later evening hours because our bodies are not meant to literally be like we're meant to rest in the afternoon is what I'm saying. We're not I mean, everyone knows the afternoon slump. There's a reason why that terminology exists, and it's because come afternoon we're expired, we're tired, we need time to integrate parts of the
Well,
day.
and I would say I totally agree with you. I think that there's like obviously different parts of the day. Like I think different cultures have like different, like a siesta is the middle of the day. And you actually work
Right.
for a little while in the morning and then you work for a little while after. So it's like, but I think you're totally right with this whole like concept of we're supposed to be working like 8 hours a day. Like that's literally like
5 days a week.
that's false. Yeah.
Well, and that was a cultural change too. Like eventually laws came on the scene that said you can't actually work 7 days a week, blah, 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 blah. And so we know that it's happened in time, that things have course corrected over time.
Yes. And
4 day work weeks. People are now talking about 4 day work weeks. And so it is
but when we talk
evolutionary.
about yes, yes. And then so when we talk about like what does it mean to like reteach our nervous system, it's like schools are teaching like the nervous system what is safe. So what is getting punished, who gets approval, when to like freeze up, when to just comply, and also like when to rush through things. So it's like we're getting taught these like patterns very early on that are keeping us kind of like many people in I think turmoil like right later in their life. Like I've definitely heard people talk before about like always being afraid of like getting in trouble and it's like yeah that comes from school. And so
Yeah.
we're not like cognitively educated we're and so like to think about our nervous system and how we're feeling in these spaces. So like us being kind of taught away from ourselves is like we're not being taught about belonging. Like we should learn about like feeling approval and like community and safety and these things that if someone cannot create them for themselves, then they are not, I would say, not like necessarily always fit to facilitate. And we know that schools uh, thrive off of, but there's punishment, there's so much shame, right? Like I think there's a lot of different experiences that happen in schools, but like it could be so positive if we're focusing on these things.
Well, and I connect it to my death work, right? And all anyone is looking for is a safe place to express, like, and being empowered to express ourselves. And so, like, when we're in an environment where we're told we can't be expressive and we're like totally shut down, then again, those are traumas that we carry forward. And so, like, remembering that we can talk, like we can talk to one another. We're meant to be working with one another, communing with one another. This idea that you like shouldn't say anything because you don't know how someone is going to take it, blah blah blah, or whatever the situation is, just like, no, we need to be saying what we're feeling.
And like being able to listen to yourself, like given time and intention around listening to yourself. So
Yeah.
like embodiment as like a way to return to our inner knowing.
Yes. Yes. Comes
uh,
back to the homework conversation where it's like continuing homework even when you've just gone to 8 hours of school is like a distraction. And so remembering that like we can have rest, we can have quiet space, and that is what we need to integrate our learnings.
yes, yes, I totally agree. And then just bringing into like my specific study is about love as praxis. And so almost like how do we intentionally counteract this? And it's like we act from love, right?
Yeah.
Like love is like embodied and like something that we feel and something that happens through our nervous system. And so knowing that like love is actually not just like a sentiment, like I think we
Mm.
sometimes equate without intentional conversation around what love is, which I learned a lot of this through bell hooks is all about love, but just like the attention to it's not just, oh, I love this or I love you and it's meaningless and I don't like follow through with my actions. It's actually like it is an action. It's like a design for how we're supposed to relate to each other. And a lot of that comes through like being present. And so like I'm writing about it in relation to teachers who are pre-service teachers, so people who are in school to become teachers and how they're feeling like in the moment is like how they're that's like shaping how they're like responding to things specifically. So yeah, kind of mapping it as like there's a specific definition and like way to approach things that are is loving, like a framework
It's
for how you're making decisions.
it it's just like so beautiful. Like I think realizing that like love is an action, love is a presence, love is a feeling, love is something that you honor in yourself and therefore becomes a model for the world around. Like you love is an aura, I feel like
Yes.
you know someone who is walking lovingly.
Yeah. And like the things that you can like accomplish with your class as a teacher who like comes from a loving place, like the students like crave that type of connection, right? Like and I don't know, I feel like everyone knows in school like a teacher who is like able to connect with your class on like a different level. and
Totally.
and when you're doing that from a loving place, they can trust you, they can like have the space to like be creative and be in their bodies and listen to how things are going, like and so love as like a framework for decision making throughout like all spaces. So it's like how do you interact with like other people, and like and I think like learning that in the moment too, like being accountable and talking through things. And I also
Yeah.
like I'm remembering too that like a lot of times like students like won't raise their hands because they don't feel like they have like the right answer. And it's like that sort of conditioning around like no, we should just like accept everyone's answer. Like you can anything you think is right. That's like actually what I used to tell my sixth graders. I'm like, if you have a thought, you can say it. Like nothing you the only thing that's wrong is to stay silent.
Well, yeah,
I
and
would
it
be
is
like, just
interesting
talk.
because, yeah, it is interesting though, because you see it even like I go to something called Death Cafe, and it's this non facilitated community circle that's all over the world for conversations around death, mortality, like literally whatever is in the vein. And, you still see anytime you gather in a circle of people that there are like perhaps subtle judgments that are being passed around who is speaking too much, who's not speaking. And so, it's interesting, right? It's like, who are we to judge whenever someone has something to say? It's their experience, it's their
Yeah.
reality.
And then like our nervous systems just get taught so hard that we're like, yeah, that we're not that we might be wrong about something if we like share it, which is just like
Yeah.
it's so weird.
Yes.
I mean, I
Yes.
had to like there was a lot of stuff that I really had to get over even during like grad school. You know what I mean? Like it was like I started to become aware of these things like while I was while I was acting in them, like to the point like you said, I'm so rebellious. Like it's like I feel like that's like my Sagittarius sun,
Yeah.
where I'm just like I just am I'm so rebellious.
It's just like that seeker energy of like higher philosophy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like kind of learning those things in school. And I was like, fucking due dates are made up. Due dates are
Which I
bullshit.
never, ever would have considered. I would have
And
never considered a due date that was made up.
I could not turn things in on time. It was like I just couldn't do it anymore. And so like literally nothing I did was on time ever. It was always like a
Oh.
few weeks late. Like one time my final paper for a class, which I had written, it wasn't like I wasn't doing the work. It was just like I accidentally turned in my rough draft instead of my final, and then because I like didn't have my university email linked to my personal email, I never checked my email, and it was like the summer. My professor still graded my paper and everything, so it was fine. I mean, I didn't get like docked for it, thankfully. I mean, she knows me. I can't participate in the system any longer. This is driving me crazy.
Well, and yeah, then you wonder, okay, so like due dates probably came onto the scene as some form of structure, right? Like in a different world, it was meant to structure the fact that there was a, I mean, okay, think about like if you were to, how many kids go to school sick because it would be harder for them to make up what they missed by missing 1 day, 2 days, 3 days of literally being ill. Why in the world is there that much shit going on like all the time? Hi Chloe or hi
Why?
Kyle. It's
Why
like
is it like that?
too
It's so,
much.
and it's like keeping everyone in this state of being like frustrated. Like, think about like every time
Mm,
I'm rushed, like that's when I get annoyed and like mad about stuff. Like, I'll pop off
yeah.
at stupid things when I'm rushed, and it's like there's literally no reason for that. Like, actually, just slow down. No one's pushing you to do anything.
Well, and even in our
Yeah.
work, we create buffers, right? Like we know that in the morning, we have a window that will get started anywhere between like 10 a.m. and noon, and we'll text each other when we wake up, and we'll do an assessment of our body. We'll decide how quick we are to jump out of bed, or if we need a little bit more time. And that has been like a godsend realization for us, and we implemented that pretty much immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if I ever had like a physical space where people like learned things, like I would see it almost more as like instead of like classes, it's like you come in and like meet and talk to people about stuff, or like you don't necessarily have to be there at a specific time. Because I was like, well, how would school
Mm.
change if you could sleep in if you needed to or
Yeah.
stay later, you know?
A kindergartner who's going to school at like 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. blows my ever
No,
living mind.
literally.
Why do we have 5 or 6 year olds being up from 7 to 3?
Bus schedules actually, which is crazy because they
Yeah.
use the buses for multiple schools, and so they start schools at different times. So different schools would be like some will start early, some will get an early year, and then sometimes it'll get like a late year. That's typically how bus schedules run. But it's like again, why is the bus schedule the the
The thing that's
determining
driving how
factor
long
of
we're in
like
school.
a learning factor? Yeah, or when we're starting, like
What the fuck? That's crazy. I mean, it just, you're constantly unraveling things and constantly unraveling things. But I think the big message we're illuminating today is that there's a different world. We can make different choices. We can be more embodied, and we can expect different and learning environments. We can demand different learning environments.
yes. We can create different learning environments.
We can create them, yes. We are them. We being embodied is a learning mirror for others.
Yes. Well, and that's really centers on my work through Bloom Ed, where like I really work with people as a partner and like how they can rethink whatever they're creating, whether it be a workspace, whether it be a course or a workshop, like how you structure your things, like we can work through that and figure out how it is fostering transformation in other people.
Beautiful. I love that. Thanks for your work, Chloe. We're lucky to have you.
Thanks, Sam. You're such a great person to work with. I'm so grateful for you.
Yes, likewise. Go work with Chloe. If you're creating something, if you're creating learning, transformation, connect with Chloe. Teach from a place of love, teach from a place of embodiment. Be the future.
So, and then you can check out my work at chloehodson.org. And then you should also check out our work at groundswellcommons.com. Just
Yes.
because we've had a bunch of clarity recently. We're excited to share what we're building. And if you're interested, you should definitely check out our website.
Yeah. And if you're looking to learn yourself better, understand your body cues, your body signs, things like that, like also working with astrology is something very near and dear to our heart. We partner with Star Path, which is an AI astrology platform that has really changed the game for me. So, code Groundswell will. Offer you a 50% off your first month. So it's like $10 or something. And like literally, even if you get a nugget of information, that is gold. So even if you choose to cancel it later, which we hope you don't, but if you do, like you're guaranteed to learn something about yourself.
Love it. We love learning. We love reflecting on ourselves. And astrology
Yes.
is like such a great tool for that. I love it.
Yeah, because
Okay,
it's not just the stars, it's also like the patterns of the human experience and the domains of life in which these energies actually impact us like on earth. And that's like I think the real distinction with astrology is like it's the sky is the weather pattern, but we have to understand how it actually applies to our real life and it's like boots on the ground. So, yeah, and that's what we're doing. Like that's embodiment. Like we are human vessels on this in this earth school.
yeah, what a beautiful way of putting it.
All right, that's a wrap. Good job.
That's a wrap. If this resonated, we'd love for you to like, subscribe, comment, or share it with someone in your world.
You can find everything we're building at groundswellcommons.com, including ways to engage and connect with us.
You can also work with me, Chloe, at chloehodson.org.
And me, Sam, at futureancestorsproject.org.
Thanks for being part of the shift.